about. Of all the Hollywood legends, he was the one I most admired, most wanted to meet. It happened in 1976, and he didn't let me down. Unlike some stars who are uneasy unless they're accompanied by bodyguards, managers, publicity agents, hairdressers, and ear, nose, and throat specialists, Astaire turned up unaccompanied. A slight and graceful figure, he made no demands, except that we get it right, but that was always his attitude. His method of choosing film clips to illustrate the interview was typical of the man. They were selected not to emphasize his dazzling genius, but to reveal the pride he had in overcoming a particular technical problem. One memory remains. Backstage, awaiting the signal to start the show, I sensed that Astaire was a little nervous, partly to settle him down, but mainly to stop myself fainting. I told him that as a kid, I used to imitate two walks, his and John Wayne's. I did a demonstration. He told me that Wayne had once said that he copied his walk from Fred Astaire. The signal was given. I walked on to introduce Fred Astaire and fell from the top step to the bottom. Take two. I went backstage. Astaire was laughing. Guess you got confused between me and the Duke, he said. And then he demonstrated how it should be done. And come to think of it, that was what he always did, show how it ought to be done. So let's go back 12 years and remember not just a wonderful entertainer, but a very nice man. Of my special guest tonight, a few quotes from his friends. James Cagney said, "The truth is, white tie and tails and all, he's got a little of the hoodlum in him." Irving Berlin said, "I'd rather have him introduce my songs than any other performer." And Gene Kelly said, "I'm the truck driver, he's the aristocrat." He received an Academy Award for, and I quote, his unique artistry and his contribution to the technique of motion pictures. On the debit side, there's the judgment of some movie mogul who said of his first screen test, "Can't act, can't sing, can dance a little." Well, that executive is long gone. The man he assessed is still with us, still what he always was, the man who created film dance, the man who'll be remembered as long as film exists. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Astaire. I think I must establish, first of all, Fred, because I do happen to know you don't like being interviewed, do you?
Well, with you, I love it. You know, I mean, I'm sure I will. I'm not kidding.
But you once had a reputation in America, didn't you? You were once nominated, I think, by the gossip columnists, one of the 10 least cooperative stars in Hollywood.
Yes, I was, and several people were very envious of me for that. I remember Ronald Colman was furious because he wanted to be first. And, of course, that goes way, way back. But it was all in fun anyway, because there was nothing, you know, all those things you read in the paper, and they sound a little rough, but they're not. No. They're not rough.
I was interested also in reading your biography to find out that, in fact, your sister, Adele, had a nickname for you, which was Moaning Minnie.
Well, I know that, but she wasn't the only one. It was some friends of mine, some fellow friends of mine who called me, because I was worrying about things all the time. And whenever there's a job to do in showbiz, you worry about it. And they used to kid me about it. So I got used to that. That was so long ago, I haven't heard that one for a long time.
How long, in fact, have you been in show business?
Well, you mean how long I actually have? Well, I'll tell you. See, I started at the age of 4 1/2, appearing professionally. And if you add that up to now, I have been performing professionally for 71 years.
70?
Well, thank you. I didn't say it for that purpose. Thank you so much. It broke me up when I thought about it. Oh my gosh, this can't be. Yeah. But it is actually so, because I was born in 1899, and then at 4 1/2, I went to New York, and it was No, I appeared at about 4½, but I went to New York when I was about 4, and then there was some kind of a professional appearance that occurred around that time, so I added it all up, and that's what it is. So
well, I interviewed Bing Crosby recently, and he thought he was a veteran, and he'd only been 50 years in the
such
business.
a child, for heaven's sake. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, if you work it out, you qualify for 3 gold watches as well, don't you? So 25 years, every 25 years.
Yeah.
Were you, in fact, you were reluctant to go on the stage, weren't you? I mean, in the sense that you didn't have any ambition, you were more or less forced into it, weren't you?
I don't remember. I wasn't forced. I went. My sister Adele was going to New York. She was going to dancing school and stage school, and so I went along too. And the first thing you know, I was in it, and I didn't know what I was doing at all.
It's staggering, that part of it, though, when you think that somebody who's contributed as much as you have to the dance, that you really had no sort of blinding ambition. You didn't sort of...
Oh no, at that point, at 4½, I didn't. I used to go around looking for mice or anything, you know. I didn't know what show business was.
Yes.
I found out pretty soon, though.
Yes. Well, what was it like? I mean, those days of vaudeville and those times, was it fairly rough, the audiences you had to play to?
We played in some pretty crummy dumps when we were in small-time vaudeville, and what I do remember is that we were on the bill with a dog act, and the dog act had the star dressing room, and we had to climb a ladder to get to the dressing rooms that we went to. It makes sense how to get the dogs up. They couldn't climb it.
You had, in fact, of course, one of the most extraordinary periods in your career was the 20s, when you came to London with a series of magnificent or musical comedies, Gershwin numbers and stuff like that, and literally took the place by storm, didn't you?
Oh, we had a very, very happy thing there. It was a success. We were very, of course, very excited about that. Scared to death when we arrived, I can tell you that.
Yes. I know that you're going to sing a song for us about London, commemorating London, that was, in fact, written for you by George Gershwin, one of the many songs that great composer did, in fact, write for you. And in fact, I suppose that your rendition of it is the definitive one. It's that lovely song, A Foggy Day in London.
Well, I love
Town.
the song. I hope I can remember the words. I was a stranger in the city, out of town where the people I knew. I had that feeling of self-pity, what to do, what to do, what to do. The outlook was decidedly blue, but as I walked through the foggy streets alone, it turned out to be the luckiest day I've known. A foggy day in London town. It had me low and it had me down. I viewed the place with alarm. Why, the British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wondered, could this thing last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you there, and through foggy London town the sun was shining everywhere. How long, I wonder, could this thing last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you there, and through foggy London town the sun was shining everywhere. noted a little confusion there.
I like the
I
ad-libbing.
was a little bit confused about one line.
I thought it was a brilliant ad-lib.
Well, I was like thinking, oh my God, the place at all. Then I said, the museum. That's it. Gets me out. I love
It takes a brave man to rewrite George Gershwin. We were talking before you sang that song about the stuff you did in London with Adele. And you were adopted, weren't you, at the time by the aristocracy? What in those days, I suppose, was the jet set. You were sort of darlings of them. Did you have much difficulty with the language at all when you came over here?
Well, I couldn't understand a lot of it. You know, the very fast-talking language. It gets me. You know, they say, I say you can't do that type of thing. I mean, rather. No. You see, well, I got used to that. I love it. I absolutely love it. And are you putting me on?
I just happen to know that you did a marvelous takeover of the upper-class British, that's all. Your sister Adele, of course, was very different to you in the sense that she loved parties and things, didn't she? And you never sort of gone in for that sort of thing at all.
Well, I didn't love them as much as she did. I used to go once in a while, but I wasn't too happy about parties, you know. But I was always worrying about those jobs, you know. When I got doing the job, I was always worrying about whether it was going to be right, and it was kind of fun. I kind of enjoyed worrying, I guess, or something. I was moaning Minnie.
Was there ever a time when you worked with Adele, here or anywhere else, in fact, where what we might call her social habits interfered with her work? Can I put it?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't, not here, but there was a place at home. I remember we were opening a play called Funny Face, and it happened to be a very big success in New York. And the second night, my little sister went out to a party and was having cocktails and enjoying the fact that the play did well the night before, and she didn't show up. The overture started, and little Deli wasn't there. And, of course, I went, where is you? What did you do? Why did you start the overture without her? And then some, you didn't know. So, anyway, she strolled in. Or something like that. She was a little tipsy, you know. She didn't do that. That's not her thing, but she was. So I said, gotta give her a show. Get in there and get in that dress. We're on. And the show must go on. She said, what? Why? Or something. You know, like that. And then she got in and she made the first entrance, which wasn't quite quick. There was a little something ahead of that, and she got on there, and then we had a number, and she was having a marvelous time. I was dancing around the wrong way, and I was straightening her out, and you know, she made me laugh, and I was boiling. But anyway, when I got off the stage, and there was some applause, for the people thought that was well, I went, wake up, and I slammed it, you know, like that. I never hit her before. We never quarreled in our life. And she said, what are you doing to me? So I felt awful, but she came back the rest of the show, and she was fine. She just was. Her dignity was hurt or something. So anyway, there was no more said about it. I gave her $20, and I said, here, you know, here's go and buy yourself a new watch or something. I don't know what.
It's $10 for each cheek.
No, we get along great. She's marvelous today. I see her all the time. She's marvelous.
But she of course got married, didn't she? She married into the aristocracy and gave up her stage career.
Yeah, she retired.
She retired. Yeah. How much was that a blow to you at the time, or were you wanting?
No, I was kind of glad she did, because she didn't want to work anymore, and it wasn't easy to get her to rehearse. And I'd say, oh, we ought to try that step over, and she said, why? And, you know, so she'd come, all right, I'll warm up a little bit, and she'd do a few little nothing exercises, and she wanted to retire, so it was fine. So I said, well, I know I got to get on and do something myself sometime. And then when I did, of course, everybody missed her very much, because she was a very, very successful gal, a very good comedian. She was wonderful.
At this time, Fred, were you getting a very clear idea of wanting to do certain things in the dance that hadn't been done before at this stage, when Adele had left you and you were moving toward the movies?
Well, I always had that in mind. At that point, I wasn't sure about movies. I hadn't even started. I was still doing his shows. I did The Gay Divorce in New York, and then I brought it over here to London. We played the Palace Theater with that, and it was from that one that I went into the movies, actually, after that.
In fact, I mean, you were quite old, weren't you, by professional standards, when you went to the movies? You were, what, 34, weren't you, or something like that?
Well, yeah, it was in 1933, and that made me 34.
Yeah. One thinks of, you can think of half a dozen of, so more perhaps, outstanding solo routines that you've done in movies, doing all kinds of different things with different props and things. Well, what about one of my favorite sequences of yours from a film called Carefree, which is the one where you hit the golf balls? I mean, it was an astonishing bit of precision. Before we talk about that, before we explain it, let's have a look. We've got a clip here. As I say, it's from a film called Carefree, and it really is an extraordinary piece of, well, imagination and execution. It's coming up now. That was incredible.
I really loved doing that number. Had a lot of practice. One of the things I remember particularly, in order to keep the balls in the view of the camera, we had a tree the location we did this was a tree, a big tree background, so you could see this little white ball. Because some people think it was done tricky, and it wasn't. But I was hitting them, and they were going straight, but they were going up a little too quick, and out of the camera lens thing. So the camera, I said, "Hey, can't you keep those a little lower, please?" And I said, "Look, I got enough troubles with hitting these guys." But so anyway, I flattened my swing, and I kept them down, and it worked anyway. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm glad you liked it. Thanks very much.
Oh, super, yeah. Now, listen, I didn't realize, in fact, until I started doing this, but I thought I knew most things about you, but I didn't realize, I must admit, that, in fact, you were a songwriter, as well as a...
Well, I was sort of a disappointed songwriter for years. Ever since I was a kid, I used to love to try and write songs. I wrote some of those terrible songs that there were. I got sort of disgusted. Oh, that's awful. I wouldn't keep them. But then I got a few that went all right, and never too much, but they were okay to do. And then just recently I started doing it again and got a couple of things doing now.
Well, the first one you're going to sing is, in fact, a song about Los Angeles, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's called City of the Angels.
City of the Angels, right. That's right. Gather round me, join me in a toast to that California town I love the most. City of the angels, pretty city of the angels, that's the only place I really want to be. Life's a taste of honey when the days are bright and sunny, while you dream of picking money off a tree. City of the angels, pretty city of the angels, how I hate to leave her even for a while. Especially when it's cloudy, she's got ways of saying howdy, making everyone so proud he wears a smile. L.A. doesn't begin to describe her name. She'll stay under your skin like a dame who became quite famous. Now if you've got a craving, if you're looking for a haven, all my best advice I'm saving for the end. Train or boat or jet there, just as soon as you can get there. And I'll bet that you'll be met there by a friend. Splash in the sea and foam, cash in Paris and Rome. Just a little change will make make the city of the angels your home. Got a craving, if you're looking for a haven, all my best advice I'll tell you once again. Train or boat or jet there just as soon as you can get there, and I'll bet that you'll be met there by a friend. Oh, somewhere the hearts are fine. Come where the stars still shine, and you'll be sitting pretty in the city of those angels of mine. As a co-writer, did a great deal of work on this, but I had the idea and I had a part of the tune and had the title and a part of the tune of a boy named Tommy Wolfe. He's a very good musician, songwriter. He did all the stuff and put it together nicely. So I really like the song. You know, it's in that album that
you're making,
I've
yes.
done.
Yes. Yeah. You are, in fact, a frustrated songwriter, as you say, aren't you?
Yeah, my music.
My art.
I just have that song here, and can you use it on the show?
I suppose, therefore, then, that the men that you admired most of all, that you met throughout your long career in show business, would be those great writers, in fact, who wrote songs for you.
Oh, I admired those men tremendously. Of course, Cole Porter and Gershwin, and Jerome Kern, and there are about 4 or 5. The top men did wonderful things for me, and they wrote these songs for the pictures that I was doing and for me, and it was great.
So many people, not just Kern and Berlin and people like that, who always believe that you were the best interpreter of their song, but a lot of jazz musicians nowadays always say that rate you as one of their favorite singers. I mean, what is the quality, do you think?
It's very flattering, and I love it. It makes me very happy. I don't know. I really don't know. I know Mel Torme has always got something very kind to say. I mean, Sinatra and Tony Bennett, they all like what I do, and those fellas can sing. They've got pipes, which I ain't got. but I throw a fake note there somewhere, and I get around. I think what they like is that they know I mean what I'm doing, and I'm trying to do what the composer's got there. And if I vary on it a little bit, it isn't too much. I know as a composer myself, if somebody sings a song of mine, I'm listening to see whether they do it right, you know.
What about when these guys who you all knew, or you knew very well indeed? I mean, Gershwin, for instance, he was a fascinating man. I mean, a fine musician, a great writer. He was a frustrated dancer, wasn't he?
Well, I don't know that he was that, but he liked to tell me he'd be playing the piano for a rehearsal, which he did quite often, because he enjoyed it. Wonderful sense of humor, a cheerful fellow, he's a marvelous guy. And he'd get up from the piano, he said, "Oh, look, why don't you do that? Try this." And then he'd get up and he'd show me this step. And I'd say, "One more time, please, George." And he'd go, "Well, and I said, "All right, we'll use it later. As soon as we can, we'll get it." And sometimes he'd give me something. Usually he'd say that when we were getting stuck on getting from one step to another. Sometimes a connecting step was a thing, and he'd say, "How about this?" So he helped us, always helped us.
How much of a lot of these numbers that you danced for these people who wrote them, you were dressed up in what became your sort of trademark, the top hat, the white tie and tails. 2 questions. How much is that really you?
Well, I don't like wearing a full dress suit. I hate it. Well, I had so much of it that people thought that I was born in it. I began to too. But it was necessary for the thing we were doing at that point, and I actually haven't worn it anywhere in a film for quite a long time.
No.
And I had to wear it to a couple of shindigs I went to recently, but I just don't like it. It's stiff and, you know.
It made you dance very well. Let's have a go.
Well, I worked for that.
Well, we've got a clip here. Let's have a look at it. Probably it was the last time that you appeared on screen in that rig, and that was in Blue Skies.
Well, that isn't Full Dress Suit, the one you're talking about. It's a tale.
You enjoy watching that?
Well, it interests me to see it again. I haven't seen it lately, and I mean, I know what's there because I've always remembered it was very complicated to get it, all that stuff, the screens, the separate screens. I did one thing alone, and then I had to change the set so that the one line would go this way, and that was another shot, and then the other line would go that way. In other words, there's a multiple amount
of you on the screen.
Yeah, of split screens put
Yeah.
all together. It's a very complicated process. It wasn't all ready to look finished until about 3 months after it was made, and I was very anxious to know how they could ever get time together so well. The wonderful department of special effects could get that all synced properly. That's what I worried about mostly.
You knock hell out of your canes, don't you?
Oh, I've broken a lot of them. Sometimes on purpose I got mad or something because I wasn't getting something I was trying to get, and then I was like, you know.
I'll tell you another slight technical thing that always puzzled me whenever I see that sequence, and that's how do you get that cane off the floor to shoot into your hand? Is that trick photography?
Well, it's not trick photography. It's a mechanical thing. There was a little hole in the ground on the stage. It had a little thing that shot up, and when the cane was there, it went like that and came up on rhythm. The fellow had to, out there, had to press the button just right. We had to have a musician to do it because the timing had to be just a fraction ahead of that beat. Because if you'd hit it on the beat, it would have been a little late and thrown things out. So we had to go and start landing up in my hand, you see.
Extraordinary.
Things like that take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And you pray all the time that they're going to work.
That was supposed to be a retirement movie, that wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
announced at the time that after that you'd finished. Why was that? Why at that time were you thinking of retiring?
Well, I think everybody gets that feeling. They come to. I said, well, look, I've done about all I can do now. And I think I want to quit, and I actually did decide to retire then. And well, then something happened. I think it was. You know, this back a number of years. I can't tell you exactly, but I think it was. So I know Gene Kelly was doing a movie called Easter Parade, and he fell out of it because he'd hurt his leg, and then they got after me and said, well, I come over and take it over and start over again and do it with me, and then he called me, and it looked like a good show, and so I did it. That's all. So I was back in business again, and so then I stayed again for a while, and then I had ideas again and quit again. I think people do that. I know a number of people that say, oh, I can't do anymore. They can't think of anymore. You think you can't, and then maybe you can't. I don't know. But
Your mother wanted you to retire, in fact, when you were 35, didn't she?
oh, my mother, yeah. My mother wanted me to, she said, Sonny, I think you should retire when you're 34. I don't know why she didn't say 35, but she's 34. I said, why? She said, well, you started so early, and that's you 4.5, and you worked so many years, and it's about time. But she's such a wonderful woman. My goodness gracious, she had these cute ideas, and I said, well, I'm afraid it isn't going to be possible. So that was all there was of that.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Well, I'm not going to ask you a question. The question I'm not going to ask you is, who was your favorite dancing partner? Because you're not going to give me an answer to that, are you?
Well, I can't because I've always said my favorite dance partner is Bing Crosby. That gets me out.
Why is it though? I mean, Gene Kelly's exactly the same. You won't talk about your dancing partners. Why is that?
Well, it's difficult because the gals are all so good, and you just don't want to say, gee whiz, I like that one better than the other one. And it isn't, he had the same viewpoint as I just couldn't do it properly. I mean, like, each one had something special. And to say which is the best, I said, well, I really don't know. Some are more effective than others and all that.
Yes.
When it comes to actual dancing, there's certain ways and styles and techniques that do show. I could go listing a whole lot of names, but I don't want to get any priorities in here because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings about it.
But did your attitude as a perfectionist, this warrior that you've admitted yourself being...
Excuse me, I must say, Ginger was certainly one, the most effective partner I had. Everybody knows that. It was a whole other thing, what we did. I can't say that. I just want to pay tribute to Ginger because we did so many pictures together, and believe me, it was a value to have that gal. Woo! Yeah. She had it. She was just great.
Yeah, there were all sorts of rumors about you and Ginger, weren't there, in Hollywood?
That we were fighting, huh?
Yes, you were fighting. Yes.
Listen, that was the biggest nonsense ever. You told me, we were talking before, you told me there was somebody who
yes,
said that there was a 25-year war
between you and your dancing partners. Yes.
Ridiculous. Absolutely nothing like. Ginger and I never had any fight. I never had any. When Ginger kicked me down the stairs, I loved it. I really did. I said, please do that again. And then she was just the same way. She could hardly hardly wait for me to kick her in the ankle, No, actually, seriously, we never had a fight, Ginger. Never. There were questionable conversations about material and say, well, I don't like it, or I do like it, well, I think we shouldn't, or we don't. Oh, yes and no. But you don't fight. I can't fight with the people I work with. I just couldn't do it. And it didn't happen, but the press liked it that way, so we laughed about it.
Well, let's talk about one partner that, in fact, you can talk about without hurting his or her feelings, because it happens to be a hat rack, which you used in a film called Royal Wedding, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah. Let's have a look at that clip first of all, then we'll talk about it in a minute. It's a sequence, as I say, from a film called Royal Wedding, and it's you in a gymnasium, and you start doing all kinds of weird things with the equipment there. When you watch that playback there, do you remember actually making it?
Well, a lot of it I really did.
Really?
I didn't. Because I saw it earlier today, as you remember,
yes.
And I remarked about, I really was surprised about probably at least a third of it. At least a third of it. I knew that there were things happened in the gymnasium because that was a part of the plot of the thing. I went up there to, I don't know what it was about, but I was there to exercise, so I pick up this hat rack as the making believe it's the girl and dancing her around. But I didn't remember some of the stuff. It makes me laugh when I see it. But I don't remember kicking that punching bag. That made me laugh. All of a sudden, that's just silly looking.
When you used to... Yes, it would have been easier to have gone like that, actually.
Yeah. Nuts. But see, everything happens when you get something, an idea working, and there's all this stuff around. I remember one thing. I don't want to go on with this too long if you
can.
But I know in the gymnasium, the scene, there wasn't enough stuff to get, so I said, well, get me some of those things, and then get me that horse, and we'd get something for that. And so we worked until we got enough that I thought would be, to make a lot of number out of it. You see. So, but you start off with one idea, and then if it gets going, you get a lot of things.
Well, one thing, of course, there you didn't have a problem with. I mean, you couldn't possibly have a problem with a partner like that. One problem you didn't have there that you must often have had with lady partners were the problem of what they wore. Because we'll see you dancing around with girls in incredible creations. It must have been difficult at times.
Well, sometimes they had things that just wouldn't work. There'd be a whole lot of dress, and you couldn't see the feet or anything, and I'd step on the thing and tear it or something, and we'd find that out before we started shooting. You'd find out at the dress rehearsal or at a costume fitting or something. And you always would ask me to come and see it and see if it worked, and then I'd say, oh, no, sorry, baby, you got to do something. And then they're always very wanting to do what would work, too, because they realize it. But one or two things that happened were funny, and with Ginger, she had a dress on with very heavy beaded sleeves. They were way down here, and they were waving around, and sort of long beads all over, weighed a ton of stuff. And I was doing this dance with her and getting it done, and she was spinning around, and the very first take, this thing hit me across here, and I honestly didn't remember anything else about what it. We just kept dancing until the thing was over, and I kept saying, "Oh, boy, we have to finish it now because nobody has said cut." The director didn't say cut. He didn't say it because it happened probably just in back where he was turning around. But anyway, I was groggy from this thing, and partly anyway. And then we finished that whole thing, and they wanted to take another for protection, and then I think we took about 10 or 12 takes of this difficult dance. I think it was called Let's Face the Music and Dance. And we decided to stop working because we were too tired and come in the next day after doing all these other takes. And believe me, we really wore ourselves out. We went to look at the rushes. They got some quick rushes to see it on the film. And the first take was the one we used in the picture.
That's always the case, isn't it?
The first one. And I, good gracious, I didn't know, and I couldn't even see where I got hit. You see.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and then there was a feather thing with Ginger, which became kind of a legend around. She had a feather dress that, like a snowstorm, it took off when it was in cheek to cheek, and there were feathers in this thing. And then she, take after take, the screen was full of feathers, and it was like snowing, and then we'd have to stop, sweep up the feathers, and finally, when she molted enough, we were able to go on with the dance, and it was fine. No, but then, because some people made that was a fight. It was no fight. We were roaring with laughter about the damn thing.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit more now about the reason why you've been over in this country, which is to make some records.
Right.
Yeah. How many have you done, in fact, Fred?
Well, I've done 36 records. There's 2 albums that of me alone, the solo albums, and I have the one with Bing.
Oh, yes.
And I think they're going to call it Bing and Fred. And of course, I love Bing so much, and I worked with in his pictures. I've done the 2 with him, and we got along so well. And I think that's a good album. I hope they all are. But I enjoyed the job. Wonderful job.
On one of the albums too, you've got a couple of your numbers. One of which you're going to sing now.
Yes.
The title of which I mustn't say.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. This fellow has a problem.
He's got a problem.
Yeah, well, that's my little friend.
All right.
All right, we'll try that. Why are you so mean to me? Why do you treat me this way? You listen to me right now, because I got this to say. I love everybody. I love everything. How I love to dance, baby, and how I love to sing. I love my aunts and uncles. I love my cousins, too. But, baby, I can do without you. Every time you look at me with those cheating eyes, I can see the devil in disguise. I love spending money. I love life, that's true. I love everybody. Oh, yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody but you. I love everybody. I love everything. How I love to rock, baby, and how I love to sing, swing. And I love the birds and flowers. I love every tree. But I can tell right now, without the pleasure of your company, how I used to think of you as a loving friend. Now you're just a bitter end. Yeah, I love dogs and horses, cats and people too. I love everybody. Oh yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody but you. I love cheese and crackers. I love ham on rye. I love fortune cookies, and I love chicken pie. I love the sunny daytime. I love the nighttime too. But listen here, ex-girlfriend, I got no time left for you. Now you have heard of Leroy Brown, that super bad cat. Well, I got some kind of news for you. You're super, worse than that. I love motorcycles, automobiles too. I love everybody, oh yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody but you. I love everybody, I love everything. I love Frank Sinatra, and I love Crosby Bing. I love the great big cities, I love the country too. But I want to make it loud and clear, I don't love you. I love to take it easy, just to sit back and relax. I love to wash the dishes, and I love to pay my income tax. I love Alice Cooper, I love Madame Nou. I love everybody, oh yeah, I love everybody. I love everybody but you.
I don't know about a frustrated songwriter. I think you're a frustrated rock and roll singer.
Oh, that's kind of a crazy jump. I don't know, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love what Harry he just knocked that off there just as if it was hot on fire. Thank you very much.
You played very well for Harry Stoneham. I mean, that's what I thought.
Very well for Harry Stoneham.
No, he's a fine musician. They all are. Listen, in fact, you can't claim entire credit for that song, can you?
No.
In the writing of it.
No, my daughter, Ava, wrote, well, she's a co-writer of a part of the lyric, yeah.
How much of it did she write?
Well, there's been a question about that, and we have to find out. But let's get her out here and see if she'll tell us herself.
All right, let's welcome Fred's daughter, Ava Astaire. In fact, it's Mackenzie, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That's right,
It is.
having got married. Now, tell me about this song that you're supposed to have written, or part of it. What, in fact, did you write? That last number that we just heard Fred sing?
Well, that little nonsense bit about cheating eyes, except that he says I didn't write that line. I guess I really didn't write that line. I said lion eyes in the beginning, but we changed it.
She said, how I used to, every time you look at me.
Every time you look at me. That's my line. Every time you look at me is my line.
Every time you look at me with those lion eyes, and then we worked around and we called it cheating eyes. I thought it was sounded
I still think I thought of that in the first place.
Well, you probably did.
You get 25...
Is that all you did? Because I couldn't remember. Really.
I think so.
There's
I don't
some
know.
of this has
We
just
talked
been
about
brought
it a
up
lot,
lately.
though. I don't know. I certainly didn't write any of those great new lyrics you put in.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well.
You get 25% of that, though, for that one line, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
sure.
I certainly hope
Great.
so.
It's better
Since
than...
it won't sell anything anyway, I'll give you 25% of it.
Really?
Well, you got it anyway. You're in the union.
My name's on the sheet.
I wish I got 25% of your father, that's for sure. Listen, did you ever have any ambition yourself to follow your dad on the stage?
Not really. I helped him out a bit on the television specials, but that was all backstage and
Yes.
production.
Yes.
But, this is my first time in front of a camera,
Really?
I think.
Yeah.
It seems to be.
Were you, in fact, on the other hand, then, were you perhaps discouraged by him from going on to take up a career on stage?
No, he never discouraged me. In fact, I remember him saying quite often that he'd like 10% if I did go on the stage.
Yeah.
I'll be your agent anytime she wants to.
What were your thoughts, Fred, about this? I mean, dancing is a very, very notoriously hard life. I mean, did you want any of your children to do what you'd done?
No. I didn't.
Especially since none of them could dance.
Well, I didn't want Ava to, because she's always falling down anyway without that.
That's true. That's really true.
Yeah.
No, she just.
I won't fall off this chair.
She's not clumsy. She just falls down once in a while.
You
I
must have...
fell down in the dressing room,
Really?
all by myself.
I do that before every show, love. And always after. Always after, yeah. There's a rumor, famous legend about your father, that in fact he keeps his drums in the bath. Is that true?
I'm afraid I made that famous.
Did you?
I don't know.
Tell us the substance of it.
Well, he denies it, so...
No, he doesn't keep his drums.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't anymore, but
no,
he did.
But they were there one day because there was nowhere else to put them, and they put them in
day.
the bathtub. Well, I want to really...
But I must say, he didn't play them in the bathtub.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm clear.
But they were there, I promise you. They were in the bathtub at one point. I'm sure it's because you didn't have anywhere else to put them, but...
And what about this thing that I talked about your father earlier on about this white tie, top hat, tails image? I mean, is he a bit of a slob around the house? Really?
No, he's not a slob around the house. I must say, there's never been anything that he's worn that I haven't thought was just great, except a pair of socks that you loved.
I absolutely love those socks.
What was wrong with
Well, they had sort of barber pole stripes going up them. I think they were blue with pink.
Oh, they had white stripes
What,
going
pink?
around. What?
Pink stripes. They were
Let's not have a
dark.
family
they-
row about it.
They're getting better. I think I'll go and see if I can find some.
What about you've seen all of your dad's movies and all this sort of thing?
I actually haven't seen them all.
Well, the great majority of them.
I've certainly seen most of them, but...
What's your own personal taste, your own favourite song that he sings? What kind of numbers do you like him singing?
Well,
Apart from the ones you've written yourself.
I was going to say, at the moment, it's I Love Everybody.
Yeah, right.
I think I have three favorites. I've been thinking about this for the last few minutes, and I think Foggy Day is definitely one, and One for My Baby.
Which, now, it's interesting, because that song, people associate with Sinatra. In fact, it was written for Fred, wasn't it?
But you did it. You introduced
did
Yeah,
it.
it.
One for My Baby
Yeah.
was written, but Johnny Mercer
Yeah.
wrote that. It was for a picture called,
Whatever it was.
well, it was The Sky's the Limit.
Yeah.
Sky's the Limit.
Marvelous. And the other one I love is...
Or Harry Warren. No, yes, what?
No,
All right,
that's all right.
Sorry.
Doesn't matter. The other one I love is By Myself, or is it called I'll Go My Way By Myself?
Yeah, By Myself.
By
yeah.
Myself, I think, is the correct title.
Well, my favourites, if you ask me, and you haven't, but I'll tell you.
I was about to.
You're about to, I know you're about to. My favourites are the ones that, in fact, were written for Fred by people like Gershwin and Kern and people like that, the real standards. And I know that Harry's put together a lovely medley of them, and I'd be delighted, and I'm sure the audience would, if you'd go there, sir, and sing the songs that you made famous.
Do you think I'll remember the words?
It doesn't matter if you don't. It doesn't matter.
A fine romance with no kisses. A fine romance, my friend. This is, you're calmer than the seals in the Arctic Ocean. At least they flap their fins to express emotion. A fine romance with no clinches. A fine romance with no pinches. You never give the orchids I send a glance. No, you like cactus plants. This is a fine romance. Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Heaven, oh, I'm in heaven, and the cares that hang around me through the week seem to vanish like a gambler's lucky streak. when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I love to climb a mountain and to reach the highest peak, but I don't enjoy it half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Oh, I love to go out fishing in a river or a creek, but it doesn't thrill me half as much as dancing cheek to cheek. Dance with me, I want my arm about you. The charm about you will carry me through to heaven. I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek. You say either, and I say either. You say neither, and I say neither. Either, either, neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off. Now you say potato, and I say patata. You like tomato, and I like tomato. Tomato, tomato, potato, patata. Let's call the whole thing off. But, oh, if we call the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we ever part, then that might break my heart. So if you like pajamas and I like pajamas, then I'll wear pajamas and give away the pajamas. For we know we need each other, so we better call the calling off. Oh, let's call the whole thing off. They all laughed at the skipper Columbus when he said the world was round. They all laughed when Edison recorded sound. They all laughed at Wilbur and his brother when they said that man couldn't fly. Why, they told Marconi the wireless was a phony. It's the same old cry. They laughed at me, wanting you. Said I was reaching for the moon. Oh, you came through. Now they have to change their tune. They all said we'd never get together. They laughed at us and how. But ho, 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 who's got the last laugh? He, he. Let's act the past laugh. Ha, ha, ha. Who's got the last laugh now? I'm putting on the top hat, tying up white tie, brushing off my tails. Oh, I'm duding up my shirt front, putting in the shirt studs, polishing my nails. I'm stepping out, my dear, to breathe an atmosphere that simply reeks with class. And I trust that you'll excuse my dust when I step on the gas, for I'll be there, putting down my top hat, mussing up my white tie, dancing in my tails, putting down my top hat, mussing up my white tie, dancing in my tails, putting putting down my top hat, mussing up my white tie, dancing in the tails.
You have no idea how much I enjoyed that.
Oh, thank you.
That
Thank
was,
you.
well, I'm not going to follow it at all. I don't think you can.
What you going to sing? You don't got to sing.
I'm not going to sing. You're joking. What shall I sing, Fred? What would you like me to
Oh,
sing?
I love it.
No, I follow you, you absolute mad. All I can say is thank you, Ava, for coming along and talking to me, and Fred Astaire, well, simply thanks. It's been absolutely marvellous.
Thank you.
Until
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Till the same time next week. Goodbye.